What's up, guys? Welcome back to Heavyweight Nation. And Final X going down in about a month. You got one of the biggest matches in Final X history, one of the big matches in USA Wrestling history. We got Jaden Cox versus Kyle Snyder for the 2023 World Team. I mean, you can get us started, go through some of their prior matches, accolades, and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of insane to think that one or two of these guys are going to be competing at the World Championships. I mean, this is a big jump for Cox going back up to 97. I mean, he looked really good at the U.S. Open. I mean, he only gave up like four total points, um, and won 12-3 in the finals over Isaac Trumbull. I mean, 97 wasn't a super loaded weight class at the Open, but I mean, Cox looks really comfortable up a weight class from 92. I mean, that was his weight class, and he kind of dominated for the past 5 years at least. So, I mean, it'll be a big test and very something interesting to watch. I mean, they went at it 2022 in a super match. Cox lost two straight, both close matches. So, I mean, it'll be really interesting now that Cox is at Michigan training the Cliff Keen Wrestling Club. You got to think that this has been something that they've been planning for years now. I mean, considering that Cox was looking to do this for the Olympics in 2020, but obviously missed the weigh-ins. So now they're going to run it back, and then we'll see what goes down. Goes down. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Cox will be looking to win his third world title this year, up from 92, where he would have probably ran into Kamaranga Sempor of Iran again. Now we have Machiavello sitting in Final X after the big win for him over Colin Moore in the US Open Finals. Probably going to be Colin Moore and Nate Jackson battling it out to secure that bid to Final X. And, the best of three, I think people think Moore would have the upper hand just based on history. But, going away from that, I think this is, again, massive for Snyder. I think the first time, maybe you could have argued Cox was a little undersized. He couldn't hang on time for that second match. The first one came down criteria 5-5. Second one was 7-1, I think, in favor of Snyder. But going forward, I mean, Cox has been building his way for a while. But, personally, I wasn't entirely convinced that he can beat Snyder based on his US Open performance. I mean, Trumbo wrestled great, though, in the finals. Can't take anything away from that. But, looking at Cox's accolades, he's been one of the best guys in the country since he was in college. Made the 2016 Olympic team. I remember beating I want to say David Taylor and Kyle Dake
yeah,
for that.
yeah,
That was massive.
yeah. I mean, like I said, like this had to be a big part of his plan. He's chasing the Olympic gold. I mean, he's already won worlds twice, and now he wants to put a stamp on it, trying to take out Snyder. I mean, Snyder, three-time world champ, Olympic gold medalist. Uh, he's on his way to building one of the best accolades that we've ever seen in the sport. So this will be a huge match. I think it's honestly not being talked about enough. I feel like this kind of goes over people's heads a lot because Cox has been kind of out of it for a little bit. I mean, he could have. I think he had a really good chance of taking out Snyder back in 2020, 2021, but now he walks around at probably like 225, 230 pounds. Now he bumped up. He's been talking about how he's put on a lot of weight, trying to get stronger, trying to be able to move with these guys up at 97. So I mean, I think he looked pretty damn good at the U.S. Open. He looked comfortable. I mean, you only gave up four total points against some of the best guys in the country at your weight class. I mean, what else can you really do?
Yeah, and I think again, Snyder's move to the Ninja Line Wrestling Club has helped him a lot, right? I don't want to say he was in a bit of a slump in 2018, 2019, but 2018 to lose to Sajulayev, again, one of the greatest guys in the history of the sport. 2019, I think he falls to Sharifov. But again, people want to call that a slump again. Sharifov, again, another Olympic champion he lost to. 2020 Olympics, loses to Sajulayev. 2022, beats Batirbek Sokolov, I think, of Slovakia in the finals, if I'm not mistaken. But again, Sajulayev's not there. There's a bunch of talk about that. And this year, I think we might be looking forward to the fifth meeting, I think, between them. And, I think a lot of people don't have it going any differently, but he has to get through Jaden Cox first, right? And
Yeah,
the argument always comes is that the Rudis card didn't matter, right? This is where it matters. And these guys have been on every single world team since 2016, right? Cox
Mhm.
only missed the 2020 Olympic team. Snyder hasn't missed a single team, and they've run through absolute gauntlets, right? Cox has beaten guys like Kyle Dake, like David Taylor, I think twice, and Hayden Zilmer to make a world team. Snyder has been obviously Jake Varner, Ivan Gatz, and some of these best guys. So I think it's going to be again pretty interesting to see how this turns out. But I think let's go down to predictions. Honestly,
Yeah, I mean, this has been Snyder's weight class since he was 19 years old, still winning. He was the first guy to ever win national title, world champ, and Olympic champ in the same year. He's really been just dominant. He's been a teenager. So, I mean, now he has I think, one of his biggest tests of his entire career now. I mean, Cox is right up there with some of the best guys in the world. I mean, obviously, and you got to look back the last time these two guys wrestled last year. I mean, it was really close. Both matches. Their first match. I mean, it went 5-5, and it was criteria win, and then pretty sure it was 7-5 score the second match. So, I mean, you got to think that Cox is now bigger, stronger. He feels better at 97 than he did from last year. He's had an entire year to work with Michigan, the Cliff Clean Wrestling Club. So, I mean, I think this year is definitely his best year and has the best shot to beat Snyder. But, the same thing with Snyder. He's been working with some of the best guys in the world at Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. I mean, those guys have just been winning basically everything. So, I mean, he's in a great environment as well. So, I mean, I think this match is going to be unbelievable. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say. I mean, this is going to be much anticipated for sure.
no, yeah. I mean, who do you think takes it, and does it go to a third match?
I mean, Snyder is definitely the favorite. This has been his, like I said, this has been his weight class since he was a teenager, and now Cox coming up. I mean, he's looked really good, but yet again, Snyder's been here. He's done this, done that, three-time world champ at this weight class alone. So, I mean, how could you say that Cox is going to be the favorite here? I mean, he's already beat him twice last year as well. So, I mean, I think Snyder's the clear favorite. I mean, but it's close. So, I mean, anything can happen in the sport. So, but I would say that Snyder for sure is going to be projected to win, but I think they'll be very two close matches.
Yeah, I mean, Snyder's guy, maybe compared to Burrows in this aspect is that if you can beat them in one match, but if you're gonna beat them in the best of three, you have to win the first two, right?
Hmm.
And we saw this with Burrows, losing the first one against Dake in 2017, come back to win the second two.
Yeah,
The only person I think that's beaten him in the best of three is again Kyle Dake swept the first two, right?
yeah,
Imar took match two, and I think their 2019 Final X series. The next match was like 9-0,
yeah,
right? Marsteller took match two last year. Third one was like 7-0. Some It was pretty dominant, right? And I think we saw that with Snyder. He's just able to, I think Chael Sonnen said the same thing. He's able to weather the storm,
hmm,
and he's able to keep pressure going for extended periods of time. And I think that's kind of what we saw with him against Jaden Cox putting up the 7-1 scoreline, right? Had him shut out at a point. I think a lot of people were looking at it like this is going to be a tech fall after he put up like three takedowns unanswered. Then Cox got to step out, kind of just both of them kind of just shut out the pace for the rest of the match. But
yeah.
I don't think there's a way Cox wins the first two matches here. I think Cox might be able to steal the first one, if anything. I'm not entirely convinced it's going to happen since they've already had a recent meeting, and Kale is the best at making adjustments, so I'll give it there. And I think it's going to be Snyder in two. I think the first match is a little bit more competitive. Don't think it comes down to criteria. I think the second match is going to be all Snyder. I don't think it's that high scoring though.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I just think if Cox wants to win this, he's got to take the first one, and it might have to be a little bit convincingly as well, because I think stylistically, Snyder is a pretty tough matchup for Cox because he's very strong and very stocky, and he's not being able to move. He can move around as well. I mean, Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. I think he's in the past couple of years he's looked a lot more active in the way he wrestles as well. So I think, I mean, Cox is going to have his hands full, especially early on.
Yeah, and I think Snyder's a guy that honestly might be the only guy on Team USA that I can say this about is that he doesn't have bad matches,
Hmm.
right? And there's very few guys who can say that about. Maybe Sidakov, Sajulaev. We're going this throughout guys in the rest of the world. The guys that have been consistent at the highest of levels never dropped a match that they shouldn't have, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I have it now. But all right, I mean, keys to victory for Cox. I mean, can't really say anything technically, but you gotta take the first two, in my opinion, to get anything done. And for Snyder, you gotta just. It's not the end of the world if you drop the first match. I don't think.
Right. And I think Cox talked about it after the super match last year. I mean, he said it was more tactical decision making that lost him the matches compared to technical wrestling. I think the push outs um obviously favor in Snyder's way, but like he said, I mean, he's close. I mean, it's so close. I think it's not technically changed. That's kind of losing the match. It's going to be tactics. I mean, Snyder's going to use the push outs. He's going to try and push him out, keep the pressure on him, make Cox get active. And I think that's where Snyder really excels is when he's able to put the pressure on guys and make force them into making bad decisions. And I think
Yeah,
that's why he won convincingly. Uh, well, not convincingly, but it was two straight. I mean, he did what he needed to do, and he knew exactly what he needed to do.
yeah. So I mean, we both have Snyder winning. You got him in two.
Yeah, I got him in two.
Yeah, I
I
do
think it's
too.
yeah, I think it's going to be close though. I think these guys have obviously wrestled each other a handful of times now. Um, Granted, Cox is now he's been at this weight for over a year now, so I mean, I think he'll look better. I think he'll look stronger. But Snyder once again, I mean, this is his weight class, so I mean, Cox is going to have to do something um, he hasn't done before to him, which is kind of hard to see, especially how Snyder's been wrestling the past year or two.
Yeah. So, I mean, we both got Snyder winning. Comment your pick below, and we'll see you guys again next time.